Looking back, the anxiety had probably been there since my early teens, a persistent background hum of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios that I had never labeled as anything other than being a careful person. I checked things twice, sometimes 3 times. I rehearsed difficult conversations in my head for days before having them. I had a well-developed ability to imagine the worst possible version of any situation and run through it in detail. None of this felt like a disorder to me. It just felt like how my mind worked: thorough, cautious, responsible. In my early 20s, as the stakes of life got higher, the hum got louder. I started having difficulty sleeping before anything significant: a presentation, a difficult conversation, a medical appointment, a flight. I would wake at 4 a.m. running through scenarios. My stomach was frequently unsettled in ways that had no physical cause. I had a persistent tension in my jaw and shoulders that I had normalized to the point where I barely noticed it. I functioned well by most external measures. Good job, reasonable social life, considered decisions. What nobody saw was the internal cost of all that functioning, the sheer energy it took to navigate daily life, while a part of my brain was continuously scanning for threats that were not there. The turning point came at 26 when a doctor, treating me for what I thought were stress-related stomach issues, asked me a series of questions about my mental state that I answered honestly, probably for the first time. She referred me to a therapist who specialized in anxiety, and in our first session, she asked me to describe a week in my life without any unusual stressors, just a normal week. I described it and she said, gently, that what I had described was not a baseline of calm with occasional spikes of anxiety. It was a baseline of anxiety that occasionally eased. That reframe changed everything. I had been managing symptoms without knowing I had a condition. What followed was about a year of cognitive behavioral therapy, not dramatic, not a transformation overnight, but a steady accumulation of tools that gradually quiet the background noise. I learned to identify the thought patterns that drove the anxiety. I learned to sit with uncertainty rather than immediately trying to resolve it through planning. I learned what calm actually felt like in my body because I had to learn to distinguish it from anxiety, which I had never been able to do before. I am 31 now and anxiety is still part of my picture, but it is a fraction of what it was, and more importantly, I understand it. It no longer runs me. I know what it is, I know what it responds to, and I know how to turn the volume down.